What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Raptors Real Talk podcast. I'm Chris Lambert, my co-host, Rovenchuk. We are so excited to get this thing underway. And there's so much going on in Raptors land right now, but there's also stuff going on in Toronto. I mean, if you were to tell me following the Raptors season that there would be a day where I walk outside and it's yellow and Kawhi Leonard is potentially coming back to the Toronto Raptors, I would have told you you were dreaming. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Svi. There's so much going on with this Kawhi Leonard stuff, but general reactions when the trade went down, what were you thinking when the rumors first even sparked up?
Yeah, I mean, I think when the rumors first sparked up, there was a bit of skepticism
Mhm.
as to whether or not it was going to be a real thing. I think my initial reaction was, okay, Kawhi wants a contract extension with the Clippers. They're really not paying up, and he's is going to go out there and be like, well, I'll go to the Raptors and I'll go to the Spurs if you guys don't give me an extension. Like that's not a problem. I think that was my initial reaction, but I think there was a very clear tipping point for me where Tim McMahon was reporting that Kawhi needed to take a sizable pay cut to stay with the Los Angeles Clippers. I'm like, man, Kawhi's not taking no pay cut.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the point for me where I really started to believe that it could genuinely happen.
Yeah, when Bobby Marks first started going off about this stuff on the night of the second round draft, I was like, what are we doing? I even wrote a piece about it just being an absolute leverage play from Kawhi. And then almost immediately after that post went up, I had someone that close to me that had a source who was like, dude, we're bracing for it today, for this to happen. And I was like, oh my God, this is really going to happen. And then it goes through. And the price tag, I mean, the price tag is the price tag. I don't know how you feel about it. That's why I'm about to ask you. But when we look at it, I don't know many other guys who are arguably top 10 in the league that would go for that type of price tag. I understand the NBA trade world is probably the biggest guessing game in sports these days. I mean, the NFL, you know what quarterbacks are worth, you know what running backs are worth. In the NBA nowadays, it really just comes down to who's managing things. So, especially with something like the Jaylen Brown trade going down, what did you make of the package now and then in hindsight?
I I think my feelings more or less stay consistent is I think it's a slight overpay in terms of the draft pick capital that you're sending out, but I understand why you do it. There's a part of me that sits here and goes, man, a mid-30s Kawhi with the injury history that he's had, and you're giving up multiple picks, multiple pick swaps. Brandon Ingram's kind of whatever. I'm a little torn on the fact that I'm like, well, he was an all-star, but also he fizzled out really hard in that playoff series.
Okay, before we continue, I want to ask you, were you one of the people who felt like he quit on the team, with the whole injury thing?
Uh, I think that's kind of tough to say.
I agree.
I think
Okay.
at the end of the day, he knows his body better than anybody
Exactly.
else does. I think he was obviously struggling in that playoff series. Whether or not you think that played a factor into, him maybe not wanting to come back, not wanting to rush back with how he was performing and the injury, who's to say?
Yeah,
Personally, I think that's just way too tough a call,
I
a
agree.
call to
Okay.
infer on.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, as far as the actual Kawhi deal goes, I I think because the player compensation is what it is, I understand the draft pick capital that you gave up. But I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it's a risk.
Hmm.
I think at best case scenario, you're hoping for 50 games out of Kawhi, give or take, in the regular season and a healthy playoff run. And if that happens at the level that he was performing last year, I think you absolutely call that a win. But you do really bet on the fact that you have something in the immediate kind of future here with
Hmm.
Kawhi and Scotty, obviously being on the rise. Because otherwise, man, some of those picks could prove valuable in the long run if the
Hmm.
Raptors are still giving them up after, the trade finally goes through with the Clippers, if it goes through with the Clippers.
Well, there we go. That's a perfect segue. With everything going on, even Shams the other day, or actually, I think it was today, this morning, he said something along the lines. Note for the audience, we're recording this on Thursday. It'll be going up on Friday. But he said something along the lines of the Raptors weren't 100% sure or were kind of surprised that they would have to take on this penalty. I don't know how you have felt since the start of the Bobby Webster era. I mean, it's been less than a year now, or just about a year now. But what do you make of just this whole situation? And what would you do if this deal had to be voided or vetoed rather?
Yeah, I think funny enough, this is something I just wrote about for Raptors Rapture that's going up on Friday morning. I think you are stuck in no man's land if this deal falls through because you talked about it earlier. It's like the alternatives are gone, right? Like Jaylen Brown's
Mhm.
relocated. You were in on LaMelo Ball. He ended up going to the Timberwolves. There really is nobody out there, whether it be via trade or via free
Yeah.
agency, LeBron
We're talking
aside,
about
who's
pivots to guys like DeMontis Sabonis or Tyler Hero, and it's like, are we like that's what we went from? Like,
yeah.
it's nuts.
There's nobody that's going to give you the skill set that Kawhi Leonard is going to give you who's out there and available right now.
Mhm.
If this trade falls apart, man, you are kind of screwed. And I find the handling of this whole situation like ridiculous,
Me
right?
too. Yep.
So the Raptors are the one who obviously get hurt by the alleged scandal that's going on in Los Angeles with the whole like aspiration thing. And then all of a sudden the Clippers are like, all right, you can have him back, but you're going to take the penalties though, right? It's like, so why?
Yeah, yeah. I
Why
didn't
would the
was
Raptors assume it?
Larry Tannenbaum the one paying Kawhi to be? Did you see the Groot photo in that Athletic article? By the way, did you see that?
I did not
Oh
know.
my God,
What happened
there's
there?
like a draw up for the whole Aspirations campaign of Kawhi Leonard as Groot from Marvel. No,
Actually,
it's
I have seen that photo on
yeah, I
socials.
thought it was AI generated at first, and then I like looked. Someone at work was talking about it and was like, "Yeah, it's like it's from an Athletic article. Like this was a real thing." It's ridiculous to me. And I'm gonna throw this out there. This is at least how I feel. If this was a different owner and it wasn't Steve Ballmer, who's been like to this point the ideal owner for the NBA, he saved them from the Sterling situation, and then he comes in and he automatically wants to just spend all his money and spend all his picks to try to be a winning competitive team. When you look at that, if it's not a guy like that, or is he really avoiding the penalties like this? Because honestly, if anyone should be receiving punishment the hardest, it should be him and potentially be stripped of his franchise. Like this is so sketchy.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you in terms of, yeah, like Ballmer's been a great owner, and yeah, like if if this were, man, not to throw them under the bus, if this were the New Orleans Pelicans doing this kind of stuff, like, man, that penalty gets hammered. Like, obviously, post investigation, doing the due diligence. If you find what you're looking for, you're not waiting. What has it been now? Like 11 months ish on hammering home the penalty. Like, you're doing it within like 2 months of like a solid
Yeah.
concrete investigation.
Yeah, it's also to me the thing that makes this even more laughable is the news of the Gary Trent stuff today. I'm like, so you're telling me that you guys were so concerned about this whole Kawhi Leonard thing, and you have the time to make it public too that you're going to be opening an investigation on Gary Trent Jr. and his ridiculous contract that he got. That there's definitely some shadiness too, because I think it's hilarious from Gary Trent's perspective that it's like, damn, the league thinks you're this bad at basketball these days that you got a contract and they can't find a silver lining to why you would get it. But that's besides the point because it's like this whole Kawhi Leonard thing, like I believe at one point going into the All-Star break, it was like, oh, there might be a resolution then. And it's like, what has Adam Silver really been doing? Like, what is his big responsibilities been this summer that have had him like worried about other things than this situation that is literally like looking like it was money laundering and it was literal fraud? Like, how do you let this happen? And then how do you even let a trade go through in the first place? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe he's just a little busy watching the World Cup. I feel like that's what a lot of people are
Yeah.
doing nowadays.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, we can't be the guys that getting off crazy tangents this early into things. But who do you have in the final, Spain or Argentina?
Oh, honestly, I think it's got to be Spain. I know Argentina's had their voodoo magic for like the
Oh my
entire
God, yeah,
tournament, but man, Spain just shut down one of the greatest offenses like you'll ever
fully.
see in France. So if they can do that against France, I think they can sure as hell do that against Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy to see Lamine Yamal to like go on and win a World Cup at his age. It would. I mean, I don't think he's had the impact that Mbappe did when he won his World Cup. What was he, 16 when he was doing that with France a few years back? But I mean, it's still incredible for a guy that young to be able to achieve something like that. Anywho, talking about back to old guys, Kawhi, where would you, let's just say, let's put the stuff we were just talking about aside, and let's say this trade does go through. Where do you rank the Raptors in the Eastern Conference? And like, what would you think, or where would a duo of him and Scotty Barnes rank in the NBA?
I think as far as the Eastern Conference rankings, it's hard to really push them further down than like the top four.
Hmm.
Like you got to give the Knicks their credit. They're the defending champions. I think Philly has improved. You're obviously banking on a lot of health in Philadelphia and maybe even a LeBron-sized help coming
Yeah.
in to join them.
Hmm.
But I think Philly's up there as well. I'd still give the benefit of the doubt to Boston. They're a franchise, they're a team that manages to figure it
Really? This
out.
is not this. Hey, this wasn't what we were talking about in the DMs the other day. So I'm
I think
intrigued.
they're a top four team. I think that's fine. I think they absolutely got worse. I think you're
Was it because I
nuts for
said the
thinking
East
they
is
hadn't.
theirs?
Yeah, I think I
Okay.
absolutely disagree with the fact that the East is theirs. I think at the end of the day, like you still trust the Celtics because of the pedigree and who they
Yeah.
are. Now, do I think private equity is kind of getting rid of some talent in Boston? Maybe, maybe. But at the end of the day, you still got like Joe Mazzulla there. You still got Brad Stevens there. You're banking on Tatum getting back there. So I think they are one of the four best teams. And then, yeah, like I think the Raptors slot in there. Like if you want to make the case for somebody like a Miami or something,
Mhm.
like, shuffling these orders around a little bit, sure. I personally don't see it. I don't think they'll be able to like field a good enough roster at the end of the day to compete with like some of these other teams. I think, it's going to take 1 year before they really kind of hit their stride with Giannis. But yeah, like I love what Kawhi brings to the Raptors. Like at the end of the day, the Raptors for seasons on end have been short on isolation scoring. They have been short on half court offense. They have been short on a guy who can just be given the basketball and say, "Hey man, go get us a bucket." They had the best person last year's playoff run to do that was what? RJ Barrett. And
Oh,
that's no knock to RJ. He was good.
not no, no,
He
no.
was a good player, but man, going from RJ as your best player in that department to Kawhi Leonard is
Yeah.
a true leap.
Yeah, that's like putting Kawhi Leonard or that's like putting Brandon Ingram and him together into one player. And then even then I might still take Kawhi Leonard's isolation scoring over that. But I think something interesting that I continue to see and I continue to hear people talk about with Kawhi is like, well, what are the Raptors gonna realistically do? Because last time he only played 60 regular season games. Now he's 50 years old, and while he is coming off a healthy season, like what can they or not? I don't know why I said 50 years old. I was gonna say 50 games. 35 years old. Sorry, I mean no disrespect. That was just me just yapping and it just came out there. But he's getting up there in age and people are concerned that maybe he's not even going to play 50 games this year. And I'm going to say this, I think that's ridiculous. And I understand that, yeah, Kawhi always seems to have these really healthy years and contract seasons like he did last year. I mean, he averaged 20, almost 28 points per game. He was an MVP candidate for most of the season. And the Clippers went 36 and 19 since December 20th. I made sure to write that down. That's ridiculous. And a lot of that was on his shoulders, especially following the James Harden trade. But I don't know about you. I think it's ridiculous, especially with all this stuff that he's kind of now putting the Raptors through with all of the aspirations things. It's kind of ridiculous to me to say that this guy isn't going to play more than 60 games next year. Like I understand the reasons why, but I think that's ridiculous to just make that a known thing now and be like, no, he's not going to play. We're going to let him do his thing because I don't think he gets to do that this time. This is on the Raptors' terms.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think I would just overall trust the Raptors medical staff. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, a lot of time has passed since the last time that Kawhi Leonard was a member of the Toronto Raptors. But even then, like you have that history, you have at least some idea of how to manage this guy. So I'm not too stressed about the injuries. I do think it's always relevant with Kawhi that you can't just ignore the fact that hey, yeah, he's one of those players. He's the Joel Embiid, like Anthony Davis type of player that you're like, you know what this guy's going to be when he's healthy, but is this going to be the freak season where he's just never healthy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, let's play a fun game then. Let's be in that world where he's not healthy. Let's say he plays 53 regular season games. So, if my math is correct, that would leave 29 games where Kawhi Leonard wouldn't be playing. If that was the case, what are we expecting from Scotty Barnes? Because I think this is an incredible opportunity if that does become a reality where Kawhi isn't playing a heavy amount of regular season games. For fans to finally get what they've been wanting to see from Scotty Barnes is, which is put your head down and show the rest of the world why we all think you're a top 15 player. Because Scotty has all the tools. He's a great passer. He's a great play finisher. The outside shot continues to improve. He rebounds. Like he needs to just take the ball more and put his head down. And I think in games where Kawhi doesn't play, that's a perfect situation for him to do that because it's no longer like, oh, well, you still have Brandon Ingram, who some people at that coming into the season were like, oh, they might be on the same tier. This might be like a 1A, 1B. No, if Kawhi doesn't play, you're the 1A. So what is a realistic expectation from Scotty Barnes? And do you think that next step is a necessary thing for him?
Yeah, well, I don't think the Raptors make the trade for Kawhi if they don't believe to some degree that Scotty's got another level, at least as a scorer.
Yeah.
And I think we saw it to some capacity in the series against Cleveland, right? Like he averaged 24 points per game. The efficiency was actually pretty clean too. And more than just the actual numbers itself, it's a lot of what you were talking about, right? Like it's the assertiveness. It's the, hey, I'm going to go take this bucket. And I love the moments where you could see that Scotty remembers, hey, I'm like one of the biggest and strongest dudes on the
Yeah.
court, coupled with like I'm also fast. Like it's tough, right? Like it's been a years long discussion of saying, well, I wish Scotty would play more to, his size and strength advantages as well as like his speed advantages. I think Scotty's archetype and frame should be creating so many mismatches as a scorer. And you haven't always gotten that out of Barnes, but you got a really encouraging, 7-game series against the Cavaliers from him. And yeah, I don't think you gamble on the fact that, yeah, you might miss Kawhi Leonard for like 29 games in a season without thinking that Scotty Barnes can step in during those 29 games and just effectively be the lead option on offense, scoring
Yeah, I
wise,
think
playmaking wise, whatever.
I think too what might help that is Darko. I mean, we can say you could say whatever you want about Darko. I think he's a great coach, but there's still things that people like to nitpick with him, and that's completely understandable. He's not perfect. Like I wouldn't personally probably have him as a top 10 guy, but just on the edge of that. But like the thing with Darko is if there's one guy he's empowering on the team, it's Scotty Barnes. And I think continuing to have that reinforcement along with a guy like Kawhi, where as much as we don't get to see Kawhi be that leader, I guarantee you, and from what everyone around the league kind of says about him, like he will tell his guys, like, hey, like you can, this can be your moment. And we've seen that with guys like Paul George, where he's passed off and just deferred to him if he's having a hot night. So I think those two voices will play a key factor in it. But looking at the Raptors roster as a whole, what do we make just of the outside makeup outside of those top two? Like, are you concerned about it, maybe health wise, or even just from an overall skill perspective?
I think the Raptors still have questions that they don't even really have the answers to right now because you've obviously committed a lot of like the two things that stand out right away, right? You've committed a lot of money to Emmanuel quickly, and you've committed a lot of money to Jakob Poeltl, money that hasn't even properly kicked in yet on his new extension. And woof, that is going to be a that's good. That's going to be
Yeah.
an ugly contract to look at for a while.
Hopefully it ages like that Chris Paul contract when he got traded from Houston. Let's put that into existence, okay?
Okay,
Let's
okay, fair enough. But yeah, I think you got this weird combination where like I look at the front court, C&B playing small ball five aside, it's just kind of lacking, underwhelming. Like there's moments where I think Yak kind of gives you the vision for what you want him to be, but there's also times that he's going to get played off the floor because, he's just not as quick as he used to be on his feet defensively, and guys are taking advantage of that, which is again why you get C&B out there to play that small ball five. And with quickly, he's had a couple of years now where it's not that they've been bad. It's just that they've kind of been underwhelming and again, poorly timed, especially I would say like with the injuries where, yeah, you need a lot of things that Emmanuel quickly is going to give you in terms of, the shooting, the self-creation. And when you're missing that, like it shows the Raptors are not as good of a team, when quickly doesn't
You
play.
could argue, I mean, if they had him, they probably would have beat Cleveland, right? We could agree on that.
You can make that case for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it's a one game difference. I think
Yeah.
Emmanuel quickly can easily swing some of the close games, and especially some of the rough stretches where you're not getting offense. So I think they still got stuff to figure out where you've got this combination of young talent and kind of big contracts that it wouldn't surprise me if at some point, whether it be at the center spot, whether it be at the point guard spot, there's still one additional move coming because they may not necessarily feel like they have enough in house. Because, yeah, like you've got some exciting young prospects that you can pair up. And you still have access to a decent amount of draft capital even after the Kawhi trade that you pair it up together and you maybe get yourself a new, more reliable starting point guard or a new, more reliable starting center, depending on how they manage that front court rotation. So outside of Barnes, to answer your question, I think there's still there's still things that the Raptors are going to need to figure out about how the rest of this roster looks like. Obviously, especially with like a Barrett extension coming up and other such.
Yeah, so I want to spin back. I have two things I want to spin back on, but we'll do this one first. When you talk about the Colin Murray Boyles backup center stuff where he's playing that small ball five, for me personally, and I wrote something about this on Raptors Rapture, quick plug. But as a 6'7" power forward, traditionally, at least that's where he's like spent most of his playing careers, whether it's in college or in the pros or in high school, being that type of guy and kind of a hub sometimes offensively and an absolute anchor defensively. When you're that size and you're in your second season, for me personally, it scares the absolute living crap out of me that he could potentially be asked to play the backup center role every single night because you're just going to watch this guy's body just be abused. And then you're going to go into the playoffs and you're going to want to use that small ball five lineup with potentially him, Barnes, and Kawhi all in the same court or all in the court at the same time. You're going to want to use that way more come the playoffs. And playoff basketball only gets more physical. And to me, I feel like it's a recipe for disaster this early into his career to be asking him to play that role. How do you feel about that? Like I would say on top of everything, and the other thing I was going to ask you was about shooting and their lack of shooting. I think the backup center / starting center is the biggest question mark and the biggest fear I have with this team.
Yeah, well, when it comes to like using him at the small ball five, I think we've seen it work. I mean, granted, the example that I'm going to go to is we've seen it work with an all-time defender with like Draymond Green.
Yeah.
Like once the playoffs roll around, especially like during the peak of their powers, like the Golden State Warriors had no problems, honestly running Green at center a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And now to some capacity during their best years, that was offset by the fact that you had Kevin Durant, who's essentially a 7-footer there and had some shot blocking
Yeah.
capabilities. But I do think there is proof of concept in previous teams, previous stops with similar enough players that I do think CMB as a small ball center is a concept I can get behind, and I understand the concern about the physicality, but this guy's also like young as hell and
Yeah.
also strong as hell. Like we've
No,
seen it like
sorry, wait. Can I just clarify? I don't
yeah.
mean I think he can fully handle it. I just am concerned about long-term effects with this team already having so many injury issues now, even including Kawhi.
Mm. I I mean, quite frankly, given the roster makeup right now, I don't think you really have a better alternative
No, you don't.
than
Yeah.
CMB right now. Um, I think he should be able to handle it. I don't think I'm overly concerned about that. I think especially if you can get somebody else in there that can kind of split those minutes at the
Yeah.
center position, maybe a little more reliably, I think is the word, than Jakob Poeltl. You feel better about, the playoffs rolling around and suddenly CMB is playing more and more at the five because yeah, you want this uber switch bowl lineup and you want this like def lineup that has like him, Scotty Barnes, Kawhi Leonard, Jacoby Walter, and whoever else you want in that lineup that can essentially switch every position. And
Yep.
well, maybe not every position, but you get
But
what I mean.
I get the
Yeah,
point. Yeah, Jacoby's going to be able to alternate around the perimeter. You have Kawhi. Yeah. No, I
yeah.
fully agree with that. Speaking of Jacoby, I want to just give him a shout out because I do think if there's a guy on this team that like I'm buying long-term stock in outside of a CMB alongside Scotty Barnes, it's him. I don't know how you feel. I mean, I think that second year, I mean, the stats, like from just a regular counting stats, I believe the percentages are much better, but regular counting stats wise, his numbers were slightly down. But I think just the overall impact and him realizing, I mean, I followed him in his high school career. I followed him going to Baylor. He was a top 10 recruit going to Baylor when he went there. He was this incredible shot creator, and it just never worked. And then he went to Baylor, got stuck in the corner, and it just didn't pan out there. He comes to the Raptors. It's kind of the same thing. He's not really buying it. And then he just buys into his role. And if there's a guy like this is why to me RJ is slightly expendable, and I've always thought that like with this team now, if you're getting a healthy-ish Kawhi, you should look to move RJ because of his value for two pieces, like maybe a backup five and a quality wing who can shoot the three ball or something along those lines. But what do you make of Jacoby Walter's long-term outlook with this Raptors team?
I, to your point, I like it a ton. I think for him, like defensively, I think you can safely and reliably count on the type of player that you believe he's going to be at the pro level for like the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel pretty good about the fact that Jacoby Walter is going to be a plus defender here or like wherever else he goes. And with the offense, the efficiency looked much better last year. I mean, hey, it's only 3.7 attempts in the regular season, but he did shoot 40.9% from
Yeah.
deep. It's encouraging.
Yeah.
And I think he's best suited in a role where he's not a mouth that they feed too often, but
Yes.
he can kind of step up when necessary. I think ideally you're not going to be asking him to self-create a ton. Like
Nope.
you just want this guy to play that off-ball brand of basketball, play hard defense on the other end. And I think you get all that. I think you have a long-term role player that can stick around with the Raptors and, maybe wherever else, but just you get a long-term role player out of him. Yeah, like I like Walter, and specifically, I'm interested to see how everything shakes out with like, Graves especially coming in as well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about ideal role player, and with Jacoby too. I just want to say, like, exactly what you're saying about not overfeeding him and not trying to give him the ball to self create. But he's the type of guy where in a playoff series, I could totally see him having a night where he goes 6 for 7 from three, and he has 3 steals, and the Raptors win because it was the Jacoby Walter game. Like, I can envision a reality where Kawhi is 4 for 12 and they just decide, okay, we're just going to run the drive and kick game with Scotty and Jacoby all night. And it's just going to, anyway, let's talk about Allen Graves, who has had a solid summer league. The Raptors 19th overall pick in this last year's draft out of Santa Clara. He's been good. He had that incredible first game. He hit 3 threes. He had 22 points, 13 rebounds. He was doing a bit of everything. What are your overall thoughts on him? And what do you think from day one Raptors fans should expect from him? Is it an immediate shot into the rotation, or is it more of just, we're going to ease him in, and that's why we brought in Kyle Anderson?
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if they, threw him into the deep end from day one. I think this is maybe a situation where as the season goes along, he gets more playing time, but I do think the Raptors, I mean, they're not necessarily short on guys at his position or guys
Mhm.
that can like theoretically fill up a lot of the same minutes that he can, which is I think why like a lot of Raptors fans reacted the way they did when he was selected, where they were just like, "What?"
Why? Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you had bigger needs on the roster, and I
There
think
was
that much
Cam
is
Carr and LeBaron Philon on the board. Like, let's just like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, hey, Cam Carr has been hooping with the Lakers Summer League roster, so oh, that is I think he's actually like probably one of my favorite guys from this draft. I think he is.
oh yeah,
I think value wise, I don't think anybody did better than the Lakers getting Carr
no,
at 24.
yeah,
But that aside, um, I would expect this to be a situation where he's going to be eased along. You got guys, you got depth at the position. You can afford to give him kind of that, not necessarily that he'll need it, but you can afford to give him that kind of like Grady Dick rookie season treatment where you kind of first half of the season, maybe, he's jumping down to like the 905, playing a
yeah,
little bit with that. Maybe he's getting a few minutes off the bench here and there, but it's really in the second half of the season that you see more of him. I think that obviously it's a different situation because obviously that version of that year of the Raptors is a very bad team, and this one shouldn't be. But yeah, I think Graves is somebody that comes on as the year goes on.
yeah. I agree. Actually, I just finished writing a piece. It should be going up kind of alongside your piece tomorrow. We'll have to put the links for all of that, all of our writing work in the description. But yeah, with Allen, I agree with you. I also think the concern I have with him, I like the idea that he's a possession extender and do well, I do agree that they needed to probably draft at a more of a position for need when they were on the board at number 19, especially with some of the options. My concern with him is the jump shot, and I don't doubt he can make it. I don't at all because he's shown at college he was by the way, he was a guard. I'm assuming you know this, but he was a guard like in his early high school days and stuff, and then hit a crazy growth spurt and ends up playing the four. So I fully trust the jump shot. I think it's a very like it's very makeable for him. But I think it's too makeable because he takes like 45 seconds to load it up and shoot it. And that's where the Kyle Anderson comparisons come in. And that's my concern because they drafted this guy to potentially be a floor spacing front court piece. And it's like Kyle Anderson is as on his career has he attempts 1.1 threes per game. And while he's hitting it at like a 37% clip, That's not really providing value in the modern NBA if you're taking 1 3 per game. So that's where my concern comes in with him because he brings it up low and it's kind of the release is fast, but it's the load up from the legs down and up that really concerned me. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that's something that the Raptors, I don't overly know like what the Raptors shooting development team is like. So I would like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, man, because we were talking about Grady Dick earlier. I actually think it is quite relevant here. I think he's an interesting example here and an interesting case study for what I think the Raptors might do with Graves. So, if you recall, in his rookie season, like I was just talking about, they sent him down to the G League a lot, and one of the big things was they really changed his mechanics down
Yep.
in the G League. They really asked him to switch up how he shot the basketball. And now that didn't work out for Grady Dick. He's not on the
Yep.
Raptors anymore. But I'm almost curious to see if they, try something similar because we're talking about the Darko Rajakovic era of Raptors basketball. So this is something that they have done while he has been overseeing the player development and, the Raptors team. So I'd be curious to see if they do experiment with him on that. But it's always such a dangerous gamble when you're asking a guy to just completely change how he shoots the basketball. We saw like Mikal Bridges struggled with it at first, like when he switched up his jump shot with the New York Knicks. Like,
Tatum's
yeah,
an interesting example because he's definitely gone through peaks and valleys. Jalen Brown's another one. Like
yeah,
it's very knit. Like if you don't have Chip England, is it Chip England? I don't know.
yeah. The shooting
Yeah,
coach,
you know
the
what
one
I'm
that
talking. Yeah,
developed Kawhi's jumper, right?
yes, the
Yeah,
legendary shooting coach. He's now with OKC. If it's not that guy, I'm concerned about mucking with guys' shots, but sometimes it's needed.
yeah. I mean, we'll see it. To your point, slow releases are tough in the NBA. Like athletes are so great, space closes and disappears so quickly, and all of a sudden you go from shooting, a 6 foot open jumper to, a tight contested look in the span of seconds, sometimes
Yep.
not even a full second, like
Yep.
it's a tough gamble if the Raptors do decide to do it, but I'd be curious whether or not they're going to risk it after having failed with Dick.
With Grady Dick, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's also when I think about it, it's like, I don't know. Another example, though, a positive one with the Raptors is like Pascal Siakam did develop into a solid or a respectable 3-point shooter. But I also don't know if that was just a guy just not having the reps because we know with Pascal, he started playing basketball when he was about 16 years old. So it's like, it's completely different circumstances than a guy like Graves who comes from a basketball family, has been hooping his entire life. But a guy who's been hooping in Summer League, Seth Lundy. Okay, so my comparison for this guy is the Raptors didn't draft Cameron Carr because they said we got Cameron Carr in Vegas with a 6'4", 6'10" wingspan wing from Penn State. He spent all of last year just not playing pro basketball because of ankle issues, and he's now averaging nearly 20 or just above 20 points per game for the Toronto Raptors in Summer League. Is this a guy that like at least from what we've seen of him, feels like someone they have to give a two-way spot because he can shoot and he's long and solid defensively?
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's slotting right into one of the most valuable archetypes in the
Hmm.
NBA. And I think you can never be, especially with a Raptors team that has, been a little spotty with their shooting. I think if
Yeah.
you have a guy that can play two-way basketball, pull up for a three-pointer on one end, go guard a guy on the other end, it's really tough to say no to guys like that because, man, they don't grow on trees, like
No.
so the thing with the 3 and D archetype in the NBA is I feel like maybe half is an exaggeration, but so many of the guys that we talk about as 3 and D, like we're being really generous on one end
It's
or
like a
the other.
35% shooter and an elite defender, or it's like you're shooting 31% from, or sorry, it's either or you're shooting 40% from three and you're only called 3 and D because you're long. Like I think it might actually be more than half. Like there's probably 10 guys I would truly call 3 and D in the NBA.
Yeah. And now, am I saying this guy's going to be number 11? Maybe not. Probably not. Let's set some realistic
Yeah, yeah,
expectations
yeah.
here. But I think, you gamble on those types of players. So to your question, yeah, I think a two-way is something that is very realistic, but also just a good gamble if you're the Raptors here.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think Seth Lindy could go down as one of the random Raptors of all time, and that kind of takes me to our next segment, which is going to be a weekly occurrence, the random Raptor of the week. The way this is going to work is So this week it'll be Svi. So I'll just throw it over to him and let him kind of host this up here. So basically, I'm going to be guessing though a random Raptor that Svi is going to bring this week, and then we'll alternate.
Yeah. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to provide two free bits of information. You get three guesses to try and figure out this player's, and you can use up to three additional hints as you see fit. Who knows? Maybe you're sick. Maybe you'll get it like right off the bat without any additional hits. But yeah, I got a player in mind, and hint or the first free piece of information that I'll give you is he has played on the Raptors within the last 5 seasons. So I'm not taking somebody, from like the
Okay.
expansion team Raptors and throwing that at you. Like that's a little much for the
Yeah.
first week. So he's played on the team within the last 5 seasons and he plays the guard position. That's where we're going to start.
Okay. Give me a hint. I'm not even going to fire off a guess off the top here.
All right. He was specifically on the is this too much of a giveaway? Let's find out. He was specifically on the 2023-24 version of the Raptors, aka the
Guard
version of the
position.
Raptors where they decided to tank way too late into the year, and then it didn't
Right.
work out.
And then they ended up with
They ended up dropping, so they ended up falling out, and
oh,
their
the pick
pick ended
goes to
up
the
conveying to the
Spurs.
Spurs. Yeah,
Okay.
which I
Guard
mean,
position.
given that draft, yeah.
Yeah. Is it, can I ask a question and then like if it's too much of a giveaway that can't be my next hint or
Sure.
okay, is he actively playing in the NBA today?
I think that qualifies as a hint if I answer that.
Okay, no, that's what I'm asking. Like, can that be a hint? Like, can I take that as a hint?
I will give that to you as a hint, and the answer is no. He is not currently. He's not currently in the NBA.
Okay, so the guy I thought it was is it's not him.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. Guard position Raptors, not in the NBA currently. 23, 24. I can't even think of who would have been on that roster.
I will say a little diabolical of me to throw a
That's like
rebuilding
one of the
Raptors
like
team at you.
I tuned out that year, man. Like I was that
Do,
the year they lost to the Bulls in the play-in and Kawhi or DeMar's daughter was like screaming. Was that year?
no, this is the year where they sent Siakam and OG packing.
Okay, okay.
They were 25 and 57 this year,
Okay, can I just
finishing.
clarify? Can I clarify something? By saying he's not actively in the NBA, you don't mean a guy who's like a free agent right now, right? Like not a guy who played last year.
I wouldn't dupe you like that.
Okay, I was gonna say because then I would have just said Bruce Brown, and I felt like we could have been good. But okay, so like Bruce Brown was on that team. Who else was in that guard room? Jamal Shed wouldn't have been there yet. Davion Mitchell was there, I think.
Don't think
God,
so,
this is
no.
this is horrific.
Do you want
I want
do you
my
want the
third
final
hint.
hit? All right.
Yeah.
I hope this is the giveaway hint that I think it is. He has a hyphenated last name.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Javon Freeman Liberty.
Yes. Yeah, it is absolutely Javon Freeman
That's
Liberty.
so no. The way you were kind of teeing it up at the start, I was thinking, oh man, it's okay. It's like a road. That guy, I watched that guy play against the Sixers and drop like 20. Like the 78th game of the season. This is ridiculous. Oh, I'm gonna get you good next week. I'm gonna come with some heat. I'm gonna
Hey
pick a
man.
guy who like was on a two-way and played 3 games.
Hey man, first of all, he had 22 games for the Raptors that season. Second of all, I remember the Javon Freeman Liberty experience so vividly because there were moments where he had like people convinced that it's
Yep,
like, yo, like this is the guy you develop as your backup point guard. Like this is
yep,
it. Like, how did he even end up with the Raptors? He's a hidden gem. And
yep.
man, like with so many of these types of players, he was just so flawed in the fact that he just had really bad tunnel vision. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he
He
could
had
score
no
the
bag.
basket.
I like if I'm not mistaken, he couldn't shoot. Wasn't that his thing? Like he was just a downhill scoring guard who would like drive and kick
Yeah. Like
occasionally.
he shot 23.8%
Yeah.
in the 22 games that he appeared in. But he had those moments that, especially at the time, like the backup guard position was obviously not strong in Toronto.
Yeah.
So like he had people convinced, or at least some people that it's just like, yeah, this is a guy. This is the guy that's going to be the backup point guard. And you actually throw on the tape and you're like, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was like oh my God, I forgot how bad that Raptors team was. And yeah, you're right. That was like the most disgusting tank of all time because they just were like, yeah, we traded our first round pick for Pearl next year, so we're gonna go for it. And then they get to the deadline, and it's like, oh crap, we don't have the makings for this. And then that was see that's where I come to the point where it's like the post Kawhi era Masai Ujiri teams were really, really mismanaged.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it's tough in the sense that you had these moments and bright spots that made you go, Masai still got it. And
mhm.
to some capacity, he did still have it. That's kind of the
Yeah.
thing. But also, I feel like the gaffes got worse, and that's kind of what made it more challenging, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And uh, just talking about that's like that feels like a decade ago because the Raptors now have Kawhi again, and wow, that's okay. I'm gonna have to come with some heat if you came with Javon from Liberty on day one. Okay, I like that.
Uh,
Shall we transition here?
yeah, speaking of random, let's talk about a little bit of like non-Raptor stuff
Yep.
here, right? I don't think there's a bigger non-Raptor story still lingering in the NBA than
Yeah.
where does LeBron James end up for next season?
LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James.
Yeah, I'm so done with this. Like I don't care anymore. Dude, you could go play for the Shanghai Sharks. I wouldn't bat an eye at this point. Like I think he's going to the Warriors, and I felt this way the entire time. And my thing with that too is like I think, and I don't know if this would fall under the guidelines of tampering, but I think a huge piece in this is the fact that Draymond declined his player option when he is never going to get a payday like that again in his career. And it's not like this was a robust free agent market with a ton of guys or fun upside swings. Like there's nobody really kicking in free agency. And when that happened, I was like, LeBron's going to go there. And then they're playing it off as this elongated, crazy decision that he's going to make. I think he's going to the Warriors. I don't think he leaves California. And he's not going to the Kings. He's not going to the Clippers. So,
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think he's just waiting until the World Cup is over to make his decision because he doesn't want to share the spotlight. But aside from that, I mean, it's hard not to look at the Cavaliers situation and think
yeah.
that makes a ton of sense, like in terms of LeBron being a guy that always is very calculated with his moves and what looks better, as a bow on his career, that championship in Cleveland. Now, do I think him going back to Cleveland puts that team over the top? No.
Mm, mm,
No, I think they would have a lot more work to do, particularly I think one of the things that like really sticks out to me is if you're just taking LeBron, you're plugging him in like at small forward with that team with James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. Man, that is such an awkward fit when it comes to perimeter defense.
yeah.
And like, sure, like you can build a defensive scheme where you're just funneling guys inside to Mobley and
Mhm.
Allen. But even then, I look at James Harden, I look at Donovan Mitchell, I look at LeBron James, and I go, damn man, which one of you guys is guarding,
Yeah.
at the point of attack? Because I don't think there's a good option among them.
Yeah. I think the
Uh,
thing too is like, is LeBron, like, do you view LeBron as a small forward nowadays? And I get it's positionless basketball, but I don't. Like, I see him next to a big that can anchor the paint.
Yeah, I think he's been a power forward for a few seasons now. I
Yeah,
think push comes to shove, he can still play the small
for
forward
sure.
position, which I think is what Cleveland would be banking on. But yeah, to your point, like I think he's better suited. Like hypothetically, if you're Cleveland, maybe you're sliding like Allen to the bench and for like whatever time LeBron's still there, and you're asking like Jalen Tyson to really take a step forward and become that
Yeah.
point of attack defender. Because otherwise, I think the fit is just so weird. Like, what are you going to run Sam Merrill as a starter? Ask him to defend the point of attack. And don't get me wrong, Sam Merrill's a good player and a decent point of attack defender, but
But
it's a
he's
lot
six
to ask of
one.
him. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
yeah.
I w- so do you think though the Cavs would be his bet? Like, who would be his best shot at a championship? Is it Philly? Because even there, I mean, as much as I think they need a guy like him, and it's like why that Ben Simmons chatter about him going back there makes like kind of some sense to me because they seems like they need a guy who's just going to facilitate and get and not really look to score, which I think was the best version of LeBron we saw last year with the Lakers when he was just like, we're going to let Luka and AR do their things, and I'm going to be the greatest third option of all time. But do you think Philly would be the best chance at a championship? And I obviously he said he's not overly concerned about that. He just wants to have fun and whatever. But how do you feel about the Philly fit?
Man, do I think it's his best shot at the championship? As long as you can't count on the fact that like Embiid's going to be available, probably not.
Right.
I just think that's way too big of a gamble, especially at this point in his career. Even with Jaylen Brown there, even with Tyrese Maxey there, I think the Embiid factor is just kind of nasty
Yeah.
to deal with. With all due respect, obviously, to Joel.
Hmm.
I'm so intrigued by the idea with him in like Minnesota. I don't think
Yeah.
it'll ever happen, but
Oh my
man,
God. Yeah.
they could so use that extra ball handling, the extra playmaking. LeBron also doesn't need to have a heavy scoring load because he's got
Mhm.
Anthony Edwards there. He's got LaMelo Ball there now. Jaden McDaniels probably wants a bigger piece of the pie, like when it comes to the offense
Yep.
at this point in his career. LeBron could just sit back, be cool. He's got Rudy Gobert behind him, who say
Yeah.
what you will about Gobert, still one of the best defenders in the league.
He made Jokic look like me and you out there. So
I don't know, man. I'm kind of sick. No.
I was about to say that this might be the first and last episode. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
uh,
I
yeah.
agree though.
All jokes aside, I think that would be as a basketball fit tremendous. But
Mhm.
man, there's no shot you could convince me LeBron, the guy who just had a whole segment of last season talking about how much he hated playing in Memphis. You cannot
Yeah.
convince me that same guy is going to go to Minnesota. With all due respect to the city of Minnesota, I've been there.
Yeah.
It's nice. I got nothing against it. It's just
Yeah.
like, can you really envision that as a LeBron city?
Yeah, no, I think LeBron would go there and it would be like he just like the father time hit him and the cold air would just tense up his body and he would just crumble or something. But
The
like
knees
the
start
Miami
buckling a
Heat,
little.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But like the Miami Heat's another one people have thrown out there. I think that is the most horrific fit of all time. Like I can't envision spacing between him and then your point guard's Davion Mitchell. I'm like, dude, like please don't. Like Tim Hardaway Jr. would have to get up 14 threes a game for me to feel comfortable with that starting five.
No, I'm totally with you. I've been on the same train with Miami that I'm like, man, if that's your star trio, you just don't have enough shooting among them. Like Giannis is a negative shooter. Bam is hit or miss. Like
Mhm.
there's worse shooting bigs out there, but even so. And then LeBron, same thing. Like he's streaky. He'll have his like 10 game stretches where he's shooting at like 40% and then he shoots like 25% for like the next 20. So it's just tough to gamble on, getting like a 40+% shooting season from LeBron from deep or anything of that sort. Yeah, I just think the spacing would be ugly.
Yeah. Well, I think we've gave LeBron his time. I hope we don't have to do very much more. No, I'm just kidding. But the LeBronto history is making it hard to want to just sit here and talk about LeBron.
Yeah.
But is there anything else around the league? Anything summer league? Any guys you've liked? Any moves you've liked this summer? I mean, this being the first pod, and we're almost. I mean, the NBA off seasons die out pretty quick these days. So, is there any storylines? Anything else in the league that interests you?
I mean, very quickly, if we're talking like Lakers, I really think people are underselling how good that team is going to be next year. I real I under
Yes.
I understand. I understand the fact that LeBron left and all these guys left, and it's not a good look in certain departments. I don't understand the argument that you got guys like Zach Lowe coming on their pod talking about how much they hate the Walker Kessler trade. I love the Walker Kessler trade, man. You gave up no players, and it's tough to get a restricted free agent. The Lakers were potentially, if they wanted to give him an offer sheet, they would have had to give him like 35 to 40 million. So you paid the draft pick so you wouldn't overpay him even worse than a lot of people already feel like they did on the contract. So I haven't understood the criticism around the Kessler move. I like a lot of the fits that they have there because I feel like these are guys that are in one way or another made to play basketball with Luka Doncic. And at the end of the day, when you have a top 5 player on your team, for my money's worth, a top 3 player on your team, you build the team with him in mind. And I think they have absolutely done that this offseason. I find it ludicrous that everybody's acting. Here's the cycle, right? Everybody's talking like the Lakers are bad now. Everybody's going to be like, yeah, it's a playoff team or a play-in team at best. Then the Lakers are going to have 50-something wins when the season is winding down. And everybody's going to be sitting there, well, why is Luka Doncic not the MVP? It's a yearly cycle,
Yes.
year in, year out. They did the
Yeah.
same thing last year. I am passionate about the fact that, it's going to happen again. Clip this, come back to me when we get to like April next year,
Hmm.
the Lakers are going to be a 50-win team with the 3 seed, and I'm going to be sitting there pushing an MVP agenda for Luka that, quite frankly, is just not going to happen because they're going to give it to Wemby instead.
I can't believe I've never agreed with any rant more in my entire life than that one, and that's saying something. Um, the other thing too, like the 50-win thing, like JJ Redick has got back-to-back 50-win seasons with garbage rosters where he was dealing with playing LeBron 45 games. Like this team, like Pete, and the thing that's so important that you said was they have a top 3 player in the world. In my opinion, arguably when he's on, the best player in the world in Luka Doncic. If you look at the roster, he carried to the finals in 2024. Granted, he lost in the finals, but that Celtics team, arguably the best starting 5 we've seen since the Golden State Warrior Kevin Durant days. But
100%.
but like he has his Kyrie comparable in Austin Reeves, who you could say from a pure scoring perspective is way better at this point in his career than Kyrie was when Luka was, or he was Luka's Robin. Then obviously I think the one thing they're kind of still missing is the point of attack defender. But I think people like I understand Quentin Grimes said like last season he wasn't good. The year before that he was averaging like 24 and playing no defense. Do people not remember that this guy was the darling of Knicks fandom because he looked like the next great 3-and-D wing in the NBA? Like if he's going to the Lakers, he's not going there to average 20 or come off the bench. He's going to start and he's going to pick up from the point of attack and shoot corner threes. And that's what he's going to do. And then you throw in Mamu, who comes and brings a little bit of size to power forward. He can dribble, pass, shoot really well, shoot way better than PJ Washington, who is one of Luka's favorite teammates. And then you have Walker Kessler, who, when you put them together, I mean, he's better than Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. He does the both things that both guys do better than them. And the thing too is like people like want to talk, well, they should have gave that price up for Jalen Duren. Do people not realize how freaking good at basketball Walker Kessler is? Like, this guy was a generational defender before Wemby. And then Wemby came in and it was like, oh my God, this guy's averaging 4 blocks. And everyone forgot about him because then he kept getting injured. If Walker Kessler can get his body right, he will be a top 10 center in the league next year. And there's no doubt in my mind. He's not even in the prime of his career yet. And then even off the bench, I didn't overly like the Colin Sexton move because I would have liked to see that opportunity given to Bronny James. And I think you can always find guard depth on the market. But that being said, Colin Sexton's a damn good basketball player. And when you look at the rest of that bench, you have Jared Vanderbilt who can come in and play a little bit of backup 5. Don't overly like the Kevon Looney things. But again, when you get to the playoffs and you have Luka Doncic, who's going to be averaging a 35-point triple-double next to Austin Reeves, who's going to be averaging 26, and then a supporting cast of role players who fit him, I want to take the Lakers coming out of the West, like at this point.
I don't think I'd go that far. I mean, like until proven otherwise, I think I'll have Spurs and OKC as 1 and 2. But I think a lot of people are pretending like, the Lakers don't have a shot at being that like definitive 3.
Yep.
And to your point, yeah, I think they're like one more good move away from really solidifying that roster around Luka. Now, have they drained their assets to do so? I think they absolutely have. But it's also Los Angeles. If there's any place where you're going to be able to convince guys to come in and take a vet minimum because they're going to make that money up off the court and brand endorsements, it's
And
Los Angeles.
Like that's
and they're playing with
generational.
Luka.
Like you're if you want to revive your career, you go to teams like this where it's like, man, I'll take the low. Like, look at guys like Malik Monk. Malik Monk came to the Lakers for a year, and this wasn't with Luka, but this was LeBron. I could argue was still top 10, top 15 in the league at this point. He goes to plays with LeBron and AD, and he ends up getting a bag and then another bag from the Sacramento Kings. Like, if you need to revive your career, you play with guys like Derrick Jones Jr. was a write-off.
Yeah.
And then he went and played with Luka, and then he got like a solid payday of $10 million.
PJ Washington got paid because of Luka. Daniel Gafford got paid because of Luka. Guys get paid because of Luka. I don't understand why. There's been at least some narrative suggesting that like that's not as true as it is. I'm like, man, if you can slot in and play the role that's being asked of you, Aiden, what?
Yeah.
Then you get your bag. That's not an issue.
Yeah, that's the one move I was like, damn, like they must really, like JJ Redick must hate this guy. Cause I'm like, DeAndre Ayton at $9 million to be my backup center when I have Walker Kessler, I don't hate it. But like JJ had to be like, dude, get this guy like like they sent him all the way to Washington. Like JJ was like, if I walk into practice on Monday and he's still here after we just signed Walker Kessler, Rob, count your days, man. I'm like, you're done, So
I forget who tweeted it, but I remember seeing it at the time that Aiden got traded. one of the like beat reporters that I follow said that spiritually DeAndre Ayton is the perfect Washington Wizard, and I just could not agree with that sentiment more.
Okay. I know this isn't Lakers chat, and we should probably wrap soon, but like, what do you make of the Wizards? Because I feel like this is a common debate around the NBA circles. And like, look, I mean, you can frame it however you want with injuries and guy like Anthony Davis, but what do you think if you just looked at that roster at face value?
I mean, ultimately, I understand why they took their shots at Trey Young and Anthony Davis. How many stars are you really going to realistically lure in free agency? So you kind of take
Yeah.
what you can get there and kind of put that around your young core. Um, Mind you, though, that Trey Young contract, my God, that is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
And
I'm a Trey Young guy too, and that blew me away.
I just don't understand who you were competing with for that kind of deal.
Yeah.
It strikes me quite frankly like it's when Jakob Poeltl got his big extension. I like one of my first reactions was like, who were you worried was going to give him that
Yeah.
type of money? With all due respect to Yak,
And that
like
was
he
like
was a
3 years
good basketball
ago.
player.
Yeah.
Yeah, like anywho, Wizards. I do believe. I think the team is there. I think it's a good squad. Could maybe have one of those like they could be this year's. You could talk. Sorry, let me rephrase this. You could talk me into them being like this year's like Indiana Pacers, like Charlotte Hornets team, like that young team that really like jumps and like flies into the picture. I I really like a lot of the stuff that they got going out there. Like
Yeah.
obviously like Alex Sarr, AJ DeBonta aside. I've been like Keyshawn George is somebody that I want to see so much more of, and I almost get worried about him getting lost in the shuffle
I
over
agree.
in DC. So we'll have to see how that comes around. But I think they got the makings of a fun team. Uh, I, I don't fully understand why they traded like for AD specifically in the
Yes.
first place, given the fact that while you just overpay Trey Young, you're gonna have to overpay AD to keep him there too. But yeah, I think they could be a playing team next year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be one of those teams. And the unfortunate thing about this is I could just see it going so bad because if they have a slow start, and this is the annoying thing, they're going to be walking on eggshells around Anthony Davis before he kicks up a stink. It's like I think they're a second half of the season team where it's like this is going to take some time to figure out because it's not only going to take time. Like AJ's not going to just come into the league and be this 20 point per game scorer because he doesn't have the outside shot yet. And when you're scheming for a guy like that, it's much easier to do so when you know he can't. He doesn't have a thing to fall back on if he's not able to get into the paint or he's not able to take a 15-foot mid range pull up. But I think if there's a team to have Trey Young or build around Trey Young, it's the Wizards because I mean Koulibaly, you said Keyshawn George, Will Riley, AJ, obviously like they have Trey Johnson. They have dudes with crazy length and then Alex Sarr and AD, obviously. This is a team where, like, if
And
if they get
DeAndre
it
Ayton.
clicking, and DeAndre Ayton now, yeah, sure, we can do that, I guess. If they get things clicking, and this is the weird thing to me, like, I didn't see anything from Brian Keefe, even as a developmental coach, where I was like, that's the guy. That's like, if they can get things kicking with him as their coach, cool. But I think that might also hold them back when there was guys like Billy Donovan on the market, and there's guys like Tom Thibodeau, like it was very weird to me for them to not make a coaching change. But hey, maybe they come. Will Dawkins, their GM, comes from the OKC tree. They, you know, maybe they're taking the Mark Daigneault path. So we'll see. But yeah, I could see Washington being a 8-7 seed next year and a team that hopefully hits their stride earlier, but definitely later in the season.
You know what I could see? Our time running low.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, folks. Well, we're gonna have to skedaddle out of here. But it's been a pleasure. I think this has been a great first episode. Let us know if there's anything you want to implement. Let us know if you were able to get Javon Freeman Liberty before me. This was Raptors Real Talk Pod, episode 1. Svi and Chris here. We'll see you next time.